Thank you for joining Beyond the Workbench, a podcast where Odin Clack and Michael Magnus discuss life, business, and how to help entrepreneurs grow and innovate.
Back at it again tonight and excited to talk to Brandon Corral, good friend of both of ours. So gotten to know him at a bunch of the shows. Brilliant guy. And I remember the first time I met him, he actually took one of my marketing classes, and 20 minutes into the class, I was like, what are you doing here? Like, come stand up here at the front with me. Right. And so I realized that he should be teaching a lot of those classes, and brought him in to co-teach with me for a class. And ever since then, he's been doing a lot of the shows for Leathercrafters Journal, Loom, and done all kinds of different things. And I don't know. I feel like awkward. Just you're watching me hype you, Brandon. It's
this is also. I mean, I'll say he's also kind of like the guy who's kind of taking the Leathercraft community kind of a little bit by storm. He is, and I mean this in the best way possible, he is a little bit of an oddball in the large spectrum of what's going out there, and I think that's a good thing because it's been a fairly homogenous group of crafters for a while, and we're starting to see it shaking up a little bit. And I think he's shaking it up with some attitude and some thoughts and new way of doing things that probably fly in the face of the traditional ways, which I think is great. Whether you like what he does, or you don't like what he does, doesn't matter. I mean, he's trying different things and he's expressed it and sharing it. And I think he's also another example of how he's shaking things up is we've been doing the business classes. He took one of yours, but he's also doing his own set of business classes, which I think hopefully we'll talk about some about that tonight. He's using a different set of channels to grow his business, and I think that's really, really interesting. It's not just the retail store. He's got some Discord stuff, which I honestly still don't understand Discord. I tried, I don't get it. Maybe I'll have to do some one-on-one time with him or something. But he's really doing some different things, and I think that should be applauded. So looking forward to talking to him some more tonight. Looking forward to hearing his view on some things. I think people will be surprised and pleased by this different voice in the space. Yeah, it should be a good conversation.
Wow, you made me sound so professional.
Well, we're just we're like the hype men. So then when you come on camera, people are like, "Oh, that guy, really?
This dude does that? Weird."
Well, one, welcome. Thanks for joining us. I know.
Thank you.
We chatted a little bit before we start recording that it's been a wild day around there for you. It sounds like, and so maybe a few weeks. So we appreciate you taking a few minutes out of your busy day to chat and hang out with us.
And if only you knew, like, what this whole year has just been so bonkers.
Yeah. I feel like I've heard a lot of people say that this year. What about you? Have you been hearing people just lamenting a little bit about it being a wild kind of roller coaster of a year? Have you heard that from anybody else?
Not. I mean, I've heard stuff regarding the tariffs and all these different business and financial challenges that people have to get around. But aside from that, man, I have not been able to afford to let my attention go anywhere aside from get this shop in order. That's just been like my whole life for like the last couple months.
When I saw you last in Waco, you were still in California, I believe, right? And you've since made a pretty big transition. Tell us a little bit about that.
So I believe it was 2 years ago that we had made the decision to move out to New York. 2 reasons. We wanted more trees and more space. We wanted a property that was more fit for growth, both like in the things that we wanted to do and the stuff that the work, right? We finally found this really cool place. My living situation is I basically live with like my chosen family. It's with friends that, I bumped into, man, I feel like 10 years ago when I used to have a normal job. I've kind of just been adopted into their family, and they asked me, because I lived in their backyard. I lived in like a little ADU, a small little house in the back. Like, hey, we're planning on moving. We'd love to have you if you wanted to come. I was like, I have no reason to say no. Like, I'm on an airplane every other month to travel for work. It doesn't feel weird to move across the country because I'm like, my dad was worried about it. It's like, I'm going to be back in like 3 months, right? But once we moved out here, they moved out here first, and there was like a 1-year gap between when they moved and when the house would be ready for me to come in and build the shop and everything. And so I had a friend that offered for me to stay at his place and build my shop there and run the business for a year before I moved out here. So like I knew it was coming. For that entire year, it was kind of like running the business on low battery mode, knowing that because it's basically my slave labor, this whole family, if we ever have to crank something out, I got like a whole bunch of people for us to just bang stuff out. But since they're gone, my apprentice is part of the family. So it's kind of just, had to change my priorities on what is it that I'm going to be focusing on for the next year. Well, it's just me.
Mhm.
And so for the last year, I'm sure a lot of people have noticed I went from like posting pictures to posting video content, but like really experimental video content. And I dedicated that year to like figuring out how not just social media, but like how human attention works. And I feel like right before we left, I felt like I made a huge breakthrough. Then moved over here knowing full well like that year was worth it. I definitely found what I was looking for. Now let's step it up in scale and actually have like a flag to plant on top of that mountain.
We've talked about that in some previous episodes too, about how sometimes the planning phases or the preparation phases or the learning phases don't always feel quite as productive, but they are the things that set you up to have the momentum to really take off. And it's been a lot of fun to watch just as an outsider to see the experimentation with the video and seeing you discover what works and what doesn't, and some of the partnerships and collaborations you've had this last year. There really has been a lot of interesting and I'll say innovative things that you've been doing while moving towards what feels like is the goal. There's been all these kind of like micro accomplishments and some
Mhm.
pretty decent accomplishments while getting to this phase. And I have to say, I'm really excited to kind of see what's next with Swift Hammer Leather and the community and the projects that you have coming up. Because I've also seen you grow as an artist this last year too, and as a teacher. And so there's a lot of opportunity and excited to see what's on the horizon.
This like in the last 2 days had made the decision to make a really big change. Now that we're getting, when I say we, it's like, I mean, it's not just me. I have like this whole family that is kind of like the gasoline to this engine. But like all the people that are part of my Discord, my production engineer Teal in Sweden, that's basically been my right hand man. He's basically my brother at this point. It's not just a me thing anymore, right? And I feel like now that I'm starting to figure out specifically what is Swift Hammer trying to do upon humanity as a whole, that focus, like I feel like I've done figured it out, but like how do I pull levers and get this to work?
Yeah.
Within the last 2 days, I've made the decision to start making some changes to like getting closer. But it's like it almost sounds crazy, but my strategy is like aim so astronomically high that like even if I fail and only get halfway there, that is still like miles better than like having played this very slow linear growth game.
So if I can ask, like when you say shoot so high, right, astronomically high, are we talking about like creatively? Are we talking about business wise? Are we talking revenue? Are we talking about just project load? What's like the sandbox you're talking about, or is it all sandboxes at the same time?
I feel like I don't measure success monetarily. Like
Hmm.
I don't slap a number of how much money I made off of that, because that doesn't necessarily, like a lot of times it's not safe. Let's just say I did even land a contract, like it doesn't last forever, and then even if the business, if I don't want to do that anymore, it doesn't,
Yeah.
that doesn't feel successful to me.
Mhm.
I feel like for me, success is measured in influence. Like, how did I affect other people? I kind of equate social media as kind of like a black magic, that like it is an incredibly powerful tool that most people use for not the nicest reasons, and it's purely just for monetary gain. But I've like tried to figure out, like, is there a way that I can use this kind of gross tool to affect people in a positive way? I don't know. It's one of those things where like you affect people in the right way, and it kind of just it covers your own back. Like the amount of people I tried to do good by, it kind of just, like, that's like my whole life, man. Like I didn't grow up with the best childhood. So like I don't know. I feel like having looked after other people and tried to do good by them, always it always comes back to like help me out. So
Yeah.
for me, it's how do I change the world for the better? And in my thinking, if I do it at a large enough scale, the opportunities will come. And I'm not even worried about it. That's like that takes a second to the real main goal of
Yeah.
affect the world in a positive way.
I think it's important to talk a little bit about what is your business, right? Because we have a lot of people who listen to the show that have everything from they're just getting started and they're hobbyists trying to build their business to people who are doing production work. A lot of your work is really more art. It's leather art commissions that are pretty high dollar. So tell us a little bit about, I mean, obviously money is not your goal, as you've stated, but money is a part of the equation. Money helps you
Absolutely.
do the things you need to do. So I guess for context, to kind of level set with those who are watching, who are listening, tell us what your business is and what are the different ways that you monetize your skills.
So my business as of 2025, because I feel like it changes as you change. I am stepping out of the battery saving mode from when, 2024, it was just like it just hovered right above broke poor, and I can do the commissions that pretty much I only did commissions that reached my minimum. I stopped taking. You can't really take every commission that comes your way, even if you didn't have a minimum. Like I feel like most people realize that very soon that like there are just some projects not worth taking because it's just like either you didn't calculate the amount of time that it was going to take, and you already know where this is going. Like it's just
Right.
it wasn't worth it. I feel like as of right now, we're stepping out of purely commissions to more of a like content based business where I make a lot of my money based off of views at this point. Passive income from writing articles for the journal. There's stuff like Patreon, Instagram subscribes. There's all these different ways that like essentially creating content trickles in money on top of the my commission rate, which is it's not cheap. Currently, it's $2,000 minimum. It doesn't really matter what you want if you don't hit that minimum. It's not that we can't have the discussion. Have a commission request form that just says, still send me the idea, even if your budget is below the minimum. Just because if I can find someone that can take on your project, I'd love to, send them their way. But it's getting more into looking after my apprentice, which is, he spent the last 3 years working in my shop and getting damn good at Leathercraft. Like, I mean, I could trust him to do some pretty technical stuff at this point. So it's turned into what used to be me make, like 5 years ago, make leather stuff in terms of production, wallets, journals, whatever, and sell it online. Now that's like pushed onto him. And my job is to make sure that he has money. He's the one that's cranking out the journals, cranking out the belts, cranking out the product. Because we don't just stock my shop, I stock other shops. It's turning more into like juggling like the version of myself that existed 5 years ago. Keep that person busy while I try to figure out how to expand content creation. And that was the decision of the last 2 days is I'm going to prioritize content. I feel like some people would see this as prioritizing content over leather, but to me, like leather was just a means to be creative. And while learning how to create content, accidentally popped a hole. When I looked through that hole, I realized like, oh, this is a much more creative avenue. This is a far more adaptive canvas and I can get really creative with this. So they really are weaving in between each other. Like the projects that I want to start tackling now that I know are much grander in scale are yes, it's a very cool leather thing, but to me, the video that is going to be made for the leather thing is definitely cooler. It's
Yeah.
just it's they're big projects, man. I got like at least three storyboarded, and I'm
Yeah.
looking at them like, dude, each one of these are nuts.
We've talked about this in classes before about the business models, right? I mean, this is really, right, I guess, for our listeners, less for you, and you know the stuff like back of your hand. But you have the make products, sell products, right? That's one model, right? You have the commission or artist model, which is a tough one to do, right? But charge a lot of money for a few items, but they're going to be really, really detail high end items. And then
Mhm.
a newer model that I think a lot of people, especially in our community, have been forgetting about is the content model, right? We see this really, especially with the woodworking group YouTubers, where maybe they started making product, but now what they really do, their whole product is the content they produce. It's not a bad reflection on their work. Their work is actually excellent, right? But they're funding their work, they're funding their art, they're funding their creativity through the content they're making, right? So some of the big projects you're talking about, maybe they're very fulfilling to you, but they also provide you storyboards and potential content that you can then use to monetize your ideas and things like that. And I know money's not always an issue, but you do have to fund these activities, even whether you're making
Mhm.
videos or not. Videos cost money to make, right? So
Mhm.
you got to have a way to have money coming in. I think that's a really interesting way to do it. I've had found it very difficult to try to do all of it, right? To be the guy who is making content and monetizing the content, but also be the guy running the shop. And I don't know too many people out there, at least on YouTube, that's where I mainly consume content, who are able to do it successfully. And those that are doing it successfully, they themselves are the content people because they were able to build a business that runs off of building products because they have a team that they've put in place to do the product stuff. But they themselves have separated themselves from the product and they're letting their team do it. They're still leading it, but they're not making the product. That's what seems to have happened. It seems like maybe that's where you've arrived at the last few days is your apprentice is doing the product stuff, right? And you are going to start monetizing your creativity via content. And I think that's pretty cool.
And I mean, this is like, I feel like I can never take credit for any of my good ideas because they really, I mean, I've been blessed to be surrounded by phenomenal teachers. I feel like I learned this in the last 2 years because some big YouTubers reached out to do like this wild project with me. They kind of wanted it to be like a pilot episode for they wanted to get funding to do a TV show and they wanted me to be the pilot episode. And don't get me wrong, they paid me very well for this. It was just all very like super transparent. They wanted to make sure that it was super clear that they're not trying to screw over any artists here, that they wanted to be, we want to support you, not just with like views. We want to pay you for all this. So for 4 weeks, it was a 4-week project that turned into like 2 months. It was way more over the top than we thought. We got to do a large scale YouTube video and I got to watch not just how does one even produce basically a short documentary, but I got to watch how they run their entire YouTube channel with millions of views and all the things that they have to deal with and how they handle brand deals where they're getting, I mean, man, if you saw how much money you can make from brand deals for the amount of work, like it really puts into perspective that like, people are sweating out here hand stitching belts when it's like, dude, I just saw dude sell a scribble on a paper for $60,000. Like, yeah, man, like selling your art as much of like an idealized, like romanticized version of what you think your career is. Selling your art is like the most inefficient way to make money off of being an artist. And it's like, it changed my whole perspective on how I view like not just social media, but like being creative and how do I wrap this in a sellable package? Not just because it makes it easier to sell it, but like it allows me to be even more creative. But this team of these YouTubers, it was 2 of them. One was the creative, one was the business guy, the videographer, social media dude. And there was a very hard separation between like what their jobs were. And I always thought it was like the ideal scenario. It's what everybody thinks that they want, right? Like if I wish somebody else took all the videos and did all this and all they had to be the creative. But then I started to see the problems of having that in 2 separate people. Like they have to come to agreements on certain decisions before anything gets made. And they can't quite see the same vision at the end of this massive project. And it's like, man, I just kind of sat there and it's like, dude, wouldn't it be wild if I could figure out how to do both of that? And that's what I felt like I spent a whole year like obsessing over this of can I figure out how to do that? I can't say that I have because the projects that I have like taken a crack at and done well, like short videos and within 30 seconds, I can knock 30 seconds out of the park. But like I want to take a crack at like 15 minutes, 45 minutes, 3 hours. The videos that I see on YouTube of people who do very captivating videos that are 3.5 hours long. Like, dude, to ask for someone's attention for 15 seconds, that's a bigger ask than people think.
Yeah.
45 seconds? Like, dude, you must be honored for someone to stop. You don't even know who you are, and they're going to give you 45 seconds of their time right now. 3 hours? These are like masters of human attention.
Yeah.
And like you can kind of just sway minds. Like you don't even have to worry about money when like the amount of influence you have over such a large amount of people. It's like, dude, the opportunities will come. When you can pull off millions of views on a 3-hour video, you got nothing to worry about, dude. Like especially on YouTube, if you actually like, these guys taught me how do you calculate the amount of views to money and all that stuff, and you can do rough estimations on your favorite YouTubers. Some of these dudes are pulling in insane money, dude, from a video they made 8 months ago.
The one thing that I feel the need to like put out there, and you can disagree if you like. I mean, it's open conversation. Is the one fallacy about influencer or content based businesses is that it's easy. It's not. I mean, these guys are spending countless amount of hours, making it look easy, right? But they're
Yeah.
working their tails off. I mean, they're just putting their energies in different places, man. But
Yeah.
YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, whatever, those people who are really crushing it, it may look like they're just living their lives to the ninth degree, and having a great time flying over the world doing leathercraft or woodworking or whatever they do, right? Mr. Beast, but they're really working their tails off, right?
Yeah.
And it's just in a different space. And so, the one thing I am cognizant of now is no matter what direction I take my business, because it does change. My point on the horizon I point myself towards changes over time, is it always needs to lead to a scalable position. Because at some point, you're going to max out your capacity. Like maybe I'm moving from one model to another model because I'm maxed out over here. I can't make enough product anymore. I don't want to make any product anymore, whatever. I'm going to transition to something else. Well, that's something else. I'm eventually, if I'm having success, I'm going to hit a wall there as well. So how do I plan for that wall, and how do I plan to work around that wall at some point in time? Whether it's going to be in content, for instance, I'll say I hit a wall with content about 3.5 years ago, and I'm just now starting to peek over that wall. Magnus, you'd be familiar with this. How many people have we been together and like, hey, I love your videos. You jerk. When are you going to put out another one? Right. And I was like, oh, yeah, it's like 3 years since I put out a long form video, right? Because I just hit a wall. I just couldn't do it anymore. Right. And I am literally just now starting to peek over it again. But I should have planned, if I was brilliant, and I'm not that brilliant, to that, I've got to scale around that wall at some point in time. Whether it's going to be because I don't have any more time, I don't have any more, creative juices or whatever. But that's where I am on everything now. Is like, pick a direction you want to go, but plan for that direction to not include you at some point in time. And you see there are a lot of YouTube channels. I mean, I've got a few in mind that people I really respect and I follow. I even give money to every month, and they've all hit a wall at some point, and they've all had to reinvent their content, strategy around having more people on the team than not having anyone on the team, than having more people on the team and studios and all this. I'm just trying to learn from them as I go.
And it's so wild that you bring that up, because like the big reason why I've had this change in direction in these last 2 days is because a video from one of my like favorite content creators on YouTube came out, where this dude hit that wall. He hit his wall of, I've been doing YouTube for 10 years. And like, I've made the realization that like, when I watch this video, I was like, does this dude know he's meant for much bigger stuff? Like what he's doing, his canvas, he's obviously much larger than his canvas is.
Yeah.
And if I feel like I did not make the decision, and I wasn't so sure of what I was supposed to do until I saw somebody else reach the end of that wall and realize like, I'm not going to plan to do this until I know what I'm going to do after that. And yeah, I'm terrible when it comes to thinking ahead. Like I'll think ahead for like the next year, but like 5 years, 15 years, I feel like I'm getting to the point where like I'm understanding not just the importance, but being able to like execute much bigger projects, things that like require lots of effort and focus over longer periods of time. So that when I start, the decision being going to make long form content, once I get into long form content, what is the goal you are trying to pull off? Where is your official, this isn't working, pull the paracord and do something different? But also, where is your benchmark for success? What is it like once you hit this point, you've officially nailed it, go and do something bigger and better now.
Right
And
on,
like, I
yeah.
feel like I've figured out what that is supposed to be. I have something to work towards now. So I hate just like moving in a random direction and hoping for the best. Cause like, dude, it's some stuff will come, but it's so slow.
Yeah, and then when it gets slow, you know what happens if you don't have a point on the horizon. You're like, I call it a point on the horizon, but goals, however you want to, term it. If you don't have that set, when things get slow, or things get busy, when things get stressful, you start picking up all this other random stuff in your life and in your business that really has nothing to do with your goal at all. And all you're doing is filling time. You're just procrastinating. I do it all the time. I'm like, I'm the guy. I'm definitely guilty of this. A lot of crafters are guilty of this. I mean, we can go down the list of people we've talked to that had the same problem. You start picking up stuff. It's like, hey, why is he making widgets now when he said he's going to be making gadgets, right? Well, because creatively he's at an impasse, whatever. So, but you got to have that goal. You got to have something that brings you back to center and know that, hey, I know it's tough, but it's going to get better. I'm working towards something. But if you're just blue skying it and you're just flailing around out there, life is tough, man. So it's interesting. No matter what your business is, what your art is, we're talking about leathercraft, obviously, but it could be horse training or saddle making or making cars, whatever. It's the same thing, right? Like you got to have a goal in mind. You got to have a direction which you're pointing yourself into. and be prepared to get through the hard times when things aren't going perfect. But just knowing there's a goal. I'm doing this for a reason.
It's obviously very impressive what you've been able to accomplish with being able to build a business around content and creativity. And I think that we would be foolish as hosts to not exploit your expertise at least a little bit, because I have to admit, I don't love doing social media. Actually, I personally, I kind of dread it. And when we've taught classes together, we almost always divide it up that I'm going to tell them how to spend their money. I'm going to tell them how to do their paid advertising strategy. And then Brandon can teach you how to play with Facebook because I'm done. And and that's the wrong approach, right? That just has to do with me and my background and my professional skills in doing a lot more paid and things that you can measure and control. But I approach it like a tactician, not like an artist. And so I think that's one of the big differences with how you approach social media is you're not just checking the box to do it. You're doing it because it's part of that creative process. But for someone like me who inevitably probably needs to post more than I do, how would you recommend that somebody just get started? Not trying to make content their whole play, but how do you just what are the baby steps that you can do to just overcome that hesitation around having to do social?
So this is what I teach in my class. And it's a lot easier in person because I feel like in person, I can just look at you and see how you're behaving and I can tell where you're at in this this hump of where are you
Yeah.
ready in terms of expressing yourself, right? There's nothing to do with social media. First and foremost, are you okay with yourself? Can you look in the mirror and be like, he's all right? Or do you cringe away and just like, I hate looking at myself?
Yeah.
Are you okay with the person that you're becoming or have become? This is like I try to tell my students, like, look, man, I know I didn't put this in the listing, but this is going to be like group therapy more than anything else. Because if you don't get past this part, the rest of this is gonna suck.
And I should have asked that question so where we moved to video for the podcast. It's
It's- First, step one, be okay with yourself. Be okay with this flawed sack of that has made it this far in life, and you've done a damn fine job. You've made it up to this point. All right. Like, look, no one's perfect. Be okay with yourself. A lot of people are super self-conscious of looking dumb in front of the camera. It's like tell the story of people that because it comes up a lot. People that are afraid of looking bad in front of others. What makes you think you look good? For me, it was I was I was in line at a grocery store, paid for my stuff, walked away, and I just like tripped on my own shoes and just like ate it right in front of everybody. And like I got up and I was just like, oh, dude, that was super embarrassing. And then I made like a connection in my mind, like, dude, I'm an idiot in front of people all the time. Why am I worried about it when, grandma and five friends are going to see it on the internet? Like, be more concerned if you blow up and you're like the next Haktua girl, and like that everyone knows you're an idiot. Like, it's just, it can get way worse, Like, I think first and foremost, be okay with yourself. Step two, make it fun. If you can figure out how to make it fun, and for me, it was like there's a reason if you go back and watch all of my videos where I was just pumping out a video like every 3 days, and it was so bizarre and different and wildly unrelated to anything before it. I was trying to figure out what was fun for me. It's a combination of what is it that you want to do, and then what is it that you have to do. I have found the balance in this last year of what is it that I want to do and what is it that I have to do. Like, I enjoy making these videos. It ended up turning into the ideas that I have for videos are so large in scope that it is in fact going to take more resources, effort, time, everything than the leather was. I look at the leather like, dude, if I just had to just bang this out, I can get this done today. No questions asked. I can get this finished today. The content that might take a week. I have to like sit down, storyboard everything. I have to look at the logistics of can I use this song on Instagram, Facebook, but definitely not TikTok. But if I swap it over to this, I can definitely use it on all three. It's like it's a whole different puzzle. But like if I can't turn it into something I want to do, it's not going to get done. It'll end up getting half-assed. And there's not, I mean, at the end of the day, especially when you're running a business, you can't run at 100% all the time. It's unsustainable. You can tell. I feel like it's so wild because some people equate like high effort equals high success. That is not always the case. So sometimes like you won't even know why something is working in regards to social media. These happy little accidents happen all the time where like, you know, you're posting and you get 2,000 views, 2,000 views, 2,000 views, and then something happens and you got like 58,000. It's like not an accident. That is not chance. You did something in that video that was slightly successful. The algorithm granted you access to an additional 50,000, you know, views, and it capped you at there. It's not like it's just going to open the floodgates. You can visually watch this on YouTube of the floodgates opening and it closes, opens and it closes. You get access to different tiers of view counts, but like it's never an accident. And I don't know, man. I feel like I found a couple. It's not even like visual techniques. It's the way that I describe how I make my content is what does it make you feel? Because that's what art is supposed to do. It boils down to what does this make you feel? And the second that I made that connection and realization, I just realized like, dude, this is way more of a squishy, fluid art. And I can get very creative with this. And it became fun for me. Once it becomes fun, it doesn't feel like work anymore. Now I just have like, so I carry around a little leather journal all the time. It's like my wallet. In my leather journal, I, you know, just mostly to help me focus of like, I sit down in the morning and I flip a little hourglass. In that 15 minutes, it's just going to be all right. All those ideas that you couldn't go to sleep because you were thinking about last night. What were you thinking about? Write them down. Cool. What do you need to get knocked out today? What are the absolute needs? Okay, no one's supposed to get knocked out. What are the other like second thing on the back burner? What is the other stuff that you can touch? Cool. So I have this journal to keep me focused. I start from the backside, so like, you know, Japanese manga style. From the back, it's literally just a list of ideas of videos that I thought of, different concepts, different funny things, different like really cool ideas that I would love to play around with. And like little by little, like there's this video that I've been thinking about. It's an advertisement for these aprons. And like the second that I realized, oh, I know exactly what song to use, I go back and cool, jot in what song. Then like something when that song loops back in through my playlist again, and I like hear the exact 36 seconds to a minute and 25. That is the exact sliver of song. I'll jot that down. So like as time progresses, I'm slowly sharpening and sharpening these ideas that were very vague, you know, 4 months ago, that are starting to become more and more fleshed out to where it's like if I were to sit down and actually hash this out, I can probably get this done within the next day or two. But to me, it's the second that I realized how to turn it fun for me personally, completely changed the game.
We've talked about this a little bit in some of our classes too, and it's probably important. I mean, you have some good classes up, so hopefully we can talk about some of the classes you have lined up for the year as well. Because I think after hearing this, some people probably want to hear, are definitely going to want to hear more. But I know we've talked a little bit about this. People ask, you know, what's the magic formula? You know, what's the magic wand for social media success? Right? Is it 2 posts per day and then a reel on Thursday? Right? Or is it what's the schedule? I was like, you know, there are formulas. There's people out there, and by the way, they change daily almost, right? I mean, but there are people that say, hey, you have to do it like this. I think like you, I tend to start with saying, hey, just do what you can manage first, right? Like find your why. And, you know, the last thing you want to do is turn into a formula where it's another job. Because if we're business owners, we all have too many tasks already, right? So if you can find a way to make it just part of your day, like for me, social media, what I do on social media, it's just part of my day. I don't consider it a job. It's kind of what I do in my downtime. It's what I do to fill the spot. I mean, if anything, I've got to make sure I don't do it too much, right? Take away from their actual real work. You know, it's just part of the day, part of what I'm doing every day. Because I didn't want another job. I didn't want another task, right? And so if you can find a way to turn social media, those things into something you enjoy, the way you said it, I think that's a perfect place to start. And then start with what you can do, right? And then once you just start a habit of doing it, then start applying some of the science behind it and adjusting what you're doing and tweaking it to get more success. But if I don't, why am I going to teach you about the science of social media, right? The business of social media until I can get you just to do it, right? And most people, I think they're asking you all those questions, and they ask me and they ask Magnus these questions because they're still procrastinating to start because they want to get wrapped up into the formulas. They want to get wrapped up into, is it, you know, 2 minutes? Is it on Thursdays or Wednesdays? Blah blah blah, all that kind of stuff. Just get started. Have some fun, right? Find someone to emulate. If you don't like what you're doing already, you just copy someone else. So you figure out your own style. Just get started. So that's what I always tell people: just get started, and then the science behind it will come later once you're comfortable just doing it on a regular basis. So
I think the other piece of that is, you know, telling a story, not just posting pictures of your products and stuff is all well and good. But people are buying from a person, and so anytime that you can be part of that story. Or we were talking to Justin Fitzwater recently. He was on the show and was discussing, the story is that he makes leather fire shields because they're beautiful and fire resistant. And I was like, well, in a video, why don't you try to light it on fire? See if you can, because that helps visually tell that story in kind of an interesting way. And the thing I want to point out about what Brandon said that really kind of falls in the middle is, yes, get started, right? Something's better than nothing, generally speaking. However, most of the people who I find that are so hesitant to make content, it's like a saddle maker. And it's like what you craft professionally is thought about from end to end. And, the next 3 months and 26 different steps, can you translate a little bit of that into like an intentional post, right?
A little
Most
bit.
of, yeah, just even a little bit, right?
A little bit is tough.
Yeah.
It's easier to tell a full story. We've all been taught stories start with a beginning, a middle, and an end. But now it's just tell a fraction of that, right? That's
And
tough
I
to get
think what
used to.
really trips people up, what I found is like kind of cracks people's brain, is they assume the story has to be told from beginning to end.
Yeah.
When you learn how like video production works, like, dude, it's easier to do the ending first and then produce the beginning to make it look like you did all this stuff on purpose.
Yeah.
Like, I think a lot of people, they have such a narrow view of who they are and what they do that they only see themselves from their perspective.
Mhm.
Your goal as like your own hype man, your own marketing agency is to attempt to view who you are and what you do from the perspective of someone else. That's not easy to do. I've spent a lot of like an obsessive amount of time viewing who I am and what I do from the perspective of someone that is not me. Look at my tools and go, if I were a stranger, what is the coolest looking thing here? Like, I don't even know what that is, but it looks pretty. So like a lot of people, I don't know, they like especially leather workers, we spend so much time focusing on hand stitching. We think hand stitching is the coolest dang thing in the world. And like you take this to like an everyday random person and they're like, "Oh, what are you making? A purse?" And it's like obviously like a watch strap or something, but they have no idea. They literally don't even know that that's leather. They wouldn't
Mhm.
know real leather if it, slapped them in the face. You need to be able to like view your your field of view as if you have never seen this stuff before. And the second that you can become comfortable doing that, you start to see like errors all the time of like, why would I include this step in the video?
Mhm.
Super unnecessary. It doesn't carry across the story. It doesn't carry across like the viewer. We could have just skipped this part and we can still follow along with what's going on. Like your goal with video content is like, how do I scrape off all the unnecessary fat and keep just the juiciest bits of steak and everything else can go?
Totally agree with that. But when we say like cut off all the juicy, like the fat, sometimes we don't know what the juicy parts are because we've been looking at it for 10 years, right? So here's a good example, like setting a copper rivet. I've set thousands of them over the years. It's nothing exciting to me at all these days, right? But it's not for me. To a customer, setting a copper rivet, hitting it with a ball peen hammer a few times, right, is it's like witchcraft. It's like an amazing feat, right? Just because it's not impressive to you anymore, who's been doing this for years and years and years, doesn't mean it's not impressive to someone, like I said, who barely knows what leather is, right? So I think you do have to like switch it around a little bit and remember who the audience is and why the audience would even care. And then somewhere along the way, also consider while you're having fun, you're telling your story, the end goal for many people is still the business piece of this, right? So part of the business is you've got to share with them some bits and pieces that connect them to a product, right? So it's all those things mixed together. But just keep in mind, we don't want to talk to echo chamber. If we were just doing content for other leather crafters, it would be much different.
Unfortunately, that's all most leather crafters do, and they have like no idea that they're doing it. Is because they consume so much leathercraft content
Right.
that that's like their only idea of content creation. So like let's just say like hashtags, for example. Everyone uses hashtags, like, but they don't understand the purpose of hashtags. A hashtag is like you're trying to guide the algorithm to try to
Yeah.
convey what is it that I'm making. The thing is, do you think you're going to do a better job than the algorithm is? You're trying to give the algorithm advice and tell it who to show this. People like get so caught up on like the secret sauce that you're describing earlier of, oh, what time do I post and what day? Dude, I will, as an pure example, I will drop a random post at 3 a.m. with not a damn word on it and hit like 15 million views purely just because I want to see who is this pushing out to? What is the algorithm like? Who does the algorithm think wants to watch this? And that's just data points for me. I can see visually the type of people. There was this whole phase where it was just pushing my content out to like male gay models, and like I got to like dip my toes into what do like uh, outrageously buff and oiled up like that's all their thing is, that's all the content that they make. Then it like shifted over to nothing but airbrush artists, and then it shifted over to nothing but like furries. Then it shifted over to nothing but like people that do, I forget what the word was, they play with like fire, they do like performative fire art and stuff. And you can like see in real time the different communities that the algorithm thinks wants to see your stuff, because
Yeah.
you keep putting hashtag Leathercraft on there. I promise you, even if you did do a good job, unless you're selling unless you're selling to leather workers, like why would you want other leather workers to see your stuff, man? My goal is to like get the average everyday person, literally everyone under the sun, to watch this content.
Not to like self promote, but this goes hand in hand with another episode we just did, right? So there's a lot of some synergy between these two episodes, which is part of it is remembering if you're in business, right, who your audience is. Now, like I have some things that I sell to other leather crafters, right? I do want to position them in a certain way where it's going to hit that audience, right? So that I want to sell in the echo chamber, but other stuff like the retail stores, I don't care if anyone is complaining about me using machines to stitch my products, because just because you, Mr. Leathercrafter down the street, thinks his hand stitching is better, which maybe it is technically better because it's stronger, blah, blah, blah. I know that my customers walking here don't give a flip
Okay.
about, they don't care. They're not going to pay me a dime, a cent more for hand stitch. You have to understand these things. What's the point of, what's the goal? What's the end goal? It goes always back to goals. It's funny. Even in our classes, at some point, everything we talk about goes back to who you are, what do you want to be when you grow up, what's your goals when you grow up, right? In your business. You gotta have goals. So it always comes full circle to that, it seems.
All right. So I feel like Magnus would fully understand, because big old nerd over here too. For all the other nerds to help you understand like this idea is when you make a business, you are building a brand new character sheet. It's going to have a name, it's going to have a class, it's going to have a level. It's what does this business, what music does it listen to? What's its goals?
Yeah.
What does it hate? What does it love? What pisses it off? What is its like dreams? What is its accent? Like you have to build, it's not a persona, it's the goals and focuses of your business. Because if you can figure that out, it helps you realize you need to figure that out as a person. Then once those things they're both aligned, you have like laser focus on what is it that I'm trying to do right now. Then you can really start to make like more meaningful growth instead of growth will happen if you spend a lot of time and resources and stuff on it. But it's just, I'm sure everyone has felt the slow growth before. And it's like, once you know you've done it right, it's like, oh man, I've been doing this for 10 years, man. And I feel like all this growth happened in the last year. And it's part of me is like, man, what a bummer that I spent 9 years spinning a wheel. But like,
That's part of it, though. I mean, the growth is all the ups and downs, right? I mean, maybe there's some savants out there, but without the ups and downs, by the way, remind me of this next week when I'm crying at my desk because I go right, but whatever, because let's be honest. But the growth happens with ups and downs. A lot of the things I do now are say I'll never do this again is because I had a pitfall, I had a downfall, I made a mistake on something else. Things I say I'll never make again, or I'll never do again, won't work with this type of client again, is because I did it and I had a horrible experience. Without those bad experiences, I'd still be doing the stupid stuff I was doing, 3 or 4 years ago. So that's part of it, right? I mean, granted, we can't see that until we're past it, but that's just life. I mean, I don't know if anyone's figured out how to get away from the pain of growth, right? I mean, it's growing pains. That's what it is.
And I heard a quote recently that's kind of lived in my head, and I go back to it quite a bit. And I've probably even shared it on the podcast before, but it's easy to overestimate what we can accomplish in 1 year, but underestimate what we can accomplish in 10. And so I think that is usually, it may feel like it wasn't breakneck speed for the last 10 years, but even if I look from when we met, was it 5 years ago at this point? I've seen you come so maybe less. I've seen you come so far in not just your leather work, but also your content creation and your marketing and your business acumen and how you've been able to start teaching others, right? And so I think it's easy to think that that was slow, but from the outside looking in, there's a lot of people's journeys that they just think you're going at breakneck speed because maybe they're not moving at all, or they're moving slower, or they're moving in a different direction. And so they observe your success in a way that we don't necessarily appreciate ourselves. So
Mm.
don't shortchange yourself, friend.
I recognize my achievements, but I'm like a habitual goalpost mover. So like I'm never happy with what I've done because I feel like at the end of the day, there are not just people that are doing it way better, but like if I want to make any meaningful change, I have to do what I just did, slap another like three zeros at the end of it. Like it's still in the grand scheme of things, it's not like it's not making the impact that I want yet. It is growth. I'll take it where I can get it. But like the end goal is so high up there that I feel like I'll never truly feel like I've won, you know?
Yes, I understand it. But it also makes me think about the biggest check principle. I don't know if it's a real thing or not. That's something a passing mentor, and I say passing mentor because we didn't spend a ton of time, but the time we did spend together, this guy hit me with some knowledge that I've just never let go of, and I'll have to share that later. But this biggest check principle is like this idea that you can only think business wise, revenue wise, up to the biggest check you've ever received. If the biggest commission you've ever received, for instance, for a job is $25, you're like, hell yeah, I've made it $25 for that thing. Okay. But when you get paid $2,500 for the next thing, you're like, I'm never going to do it for 250 or $25 again.
Yeah, yeah.
Now I got to do it at $25 and I'm only looking to do better and better and better. Didn't mean that the $25 you got paid for the stuff previously was bad. It just means that you always stepping forward, right? And I don't think that's about being not being content with your life or being content with the work you're doing. It just means that you're a driver. You're driving for success, however you want to define that. Whether it be some people's revenue, some people's number of things they sold this week. Maybe it's some influencer number, whatever. But the fun in life is the drive forward. At least for a lot of us, right? I mean, I know there's some people. I know plenty of people. Their outlook in life is they want to go to work, get off as fast as possible, get a six pack, go home and sit and watch the game. That's the whole goal, right? And you know what? I'm not passing judgment on them. If that's what you're after,
Yeah.
go for it, right?
I'm sometimes jealous of those people, to be fair. Like I'll talk to people about what shows they're watching, and I'm like, when do you have time? Like,
Right.
I wish I could enjoy it like that.
I mean, but some of us like, and I don't think any of us are like that, three of us, but that's at some point sounds like a very boring life. Like, what do you mean you just went home and you did nothing? What do you mean you don't have this thing you're working toward? Maybe what do you mean you don't have a creative project? Maybe you don't have where's the other stuff in life, right? And I think for people like that, you are falling, not victim to, but you're going with this biggest check principle. It's like I achieved this. Okay, now the next thing I'm looking for is achieve the next level and the next level and the next level and the next level, right? And we all have to define what those levels are individually, but I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's what that drives us forward. I hope that's the case because that's where I am right now.
I've I've set myself up with this very difficult to achieve goal where like I measure my success in the amount of people that I would like call set free. Like I use a lot of video game analogies because I'm a big nerd. There's this game, Sky, Children of the Light, where it's very Eastern. All it is you run around and you can flap your wings and fly places. It's just very exploratory. But the whole point of the game is to have human connection with people. And I feel like that is like what I feel what my job to do with art is to convince other people, not necessarily to be an artist. Sometimes being doing art is like the gateway drug, but it's something in your life is missing. For me, it was art. And like once you realize that like you've lived your life this whole way and you've never seen anything wrong with it because you're used to that, what if somebody showed you that like there's more to this, there's a reason to like improve, to be a better person, to seek out the things that you actually love and not just like living day to day because you just thought that that's all there is to life. My goal is to like set as many people free as possible, and I know it when it happens, dude. Oh, it hits me so damn hard when I get like a message from someone that like, dude, I just want you to know you changed me forever. Like
That's cool.
I didn't even know you can do that with leather, and it got me moving. That's how I measure success.
Magus, if I'm going to throw a little bit of audible here, right? And we can edit it as needed. But what's biggest business lesson you've learned in the last few years?
The client is not always right. Next question.
Love it. Wrap it up. Let's go. That's a t-shirt right there. All right, that's cool.
What's a piece of advice that somebody gave you one time that you think about regularly?
That's a good one.
Really, anything I've ever told you.
You have really, really good advice, but I feel like Magnus's advice is advice I have to chew on a lot longer before I fully understand it, because it's things that are much grander in scale. I think something that somebody told me, at what point are you going to make the realization that you're ready to move past your medium? And like, I never even considered like moving past leather. But once that person brought it to my mind that like, wait, there's the road that leads past this. Like I wouldn't say I'm a perfectionist. I'm definitely a completionist. Like I want to hit every skill on this skill tree before I move on to the next thing. And it got me thinking like, dude, what is after leather? Like, okay, let's continue that train of thought. What's after that? What's after that? And it's just like, man, I'm not thinking big enough.
You may not have an answer for this one. I'll throw the question out there. What if leather is not the medium, but the leather is the tool?
I feel like that's currently where the situation is. Like, I've found that my medium really is something different, and this is like my justification for like authority. This is the reason why you should like take what I say seriously. This is why you should stick around for the long haul. Is that like I kind of know what I'm talking about, at least with this one small subsection of craft. I'm not even that great of a leather worker. Like I can't make a saddle, dude. Like
This guy.
for the small things that I have nailed, I've nailed them. But like
Collectively, the world just rolled their eyes at you, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not that great a leather. Sure. Okay, buddy. The rest of us are like, you're a savant, man. You're doing great.
Yeah. What is a piece of advice that you give regularly that people get wrong?
Like I'm not giving the advice well enough and I'm like feel regret about it, or
more that you give the advice and they hear it, but they don't understand it for what it is.
I think that's definitely the to try to view your content through without having an ego. I feel like, for all the people that I really do like mentor on, man, I constantly watch their stuff. They're always asking questions and I'm trying to help them sharpen it. Like the one thing that I see a lot is that they keep making videos over like them and 10 other people are the only ones that know what's going on screen. And like there's a way to do that well where like you want them to understand the motion that's happening, but you don't want to show your whole hand just yet. Because the second that like, let's just say you're working on a painting, for the most part, the second they glimpse that painting, you've just lost like 80% of your viewership right there. You got to like kind of hide it a little bit and wait till the end to show it. Because the second that their human eye sees the full thing, it only takes a fraction of a second for their brain to process it. Cool, I'm done. I got all the dopamine I'm going to get from that off into the next thing. But like, I think being able to rip your ego off and view your own work egoless, it's like, I don't know if I'm explaining it wrong or it's like a harder thing to do than I'm expecting. But that is probably the one thing that it frustrates me the most to watch other people do, is that like, am I just a terrible teacher of this like particular topic?
I think people are scared to be vulnerable. And we talk about ego. Having ego is not necessarily a bad thing. Egotism, right? That's the tipping point of where things are a challenge. But I think what you're talking about is allowing themselves to be vulnerable. And that is a scary place for a lot of people who may not be ready for, for what they find out about themselves when they do allow themselves to be vulnerable. So I don't know that that's anything about the way that it's taught. I think some people may not be at the place where they're ready to fully follow you on that journey just yet. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't stick with them and they don't like, it doesn't click later. Right. So
I feel like, because, this comes up every now and then, like, because of the way that I was raised, I was like the baby bird that was yeeted off the cliff. If you've ever seen that, like on like Animal Planet or whatever, like had a bit of a rough start, right? Like, at the time sounded rough, but like, how has that affected my life? And I feel like I'm used to much more riskier decisions. I'm used to pain. I'm used to like having to think about myself in probably not the best ways, but still be okay with it and come to terms with it. And like it's prepared me for these more uncomfortable experiences, especially as an artist. You have to be okay with like peeling off little slivers of your soul and just having that open wound, and then it's coming around and sprinkling salt in that. Like it's just that's part of the job. The best art comes from that, you know? I think especially when it comes to like negative attention on the internet, I always tell my students like if when it happens, dude, jackpot. Like it is like just change your brain to see those negative comments are a good thing, because like for a lot of reasons, not just because engagements and all that stuff, but like art is meant to make people feel something. You've just made someone feel a very strong emotion, like regardless of whether you think it nailed what, like, you know, you have an idea of where it was supposed to go and it didn't hit there. You definitely hit something, dude. You're on to something.
Yeah.
And it's like it's worse to get no attention where like people didn't even feel it was justified to be upset about this, you know?
I was gonna say, I think my big takeaway from a lot of this conversation is to reframe how I think about social media as a user. You know, for me, for so many years working in marketing, it was a tool, it was a means to an end, it's something that you do as part of a package. It was just one more tactical execution, right? It was not necessarily, I don't think I've ever thought of social media as like a form of expression, right? It's always been, how do you let somebody know that something's on sale right now? And I
Mhm.
think that that is an important reframing of authenticity and connection, and finding those opportunities for people to actually share an experience with your story. Is if you think of social media more as a creative outlet versus just a burden. Because that's,
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, I think of it like a burden. It's how do
Yeah.
I do I schedule twice a week so I can say that it's done, right? But thinking about it with that intentionality, I think that's a big takeaway for me.
It's funny when you say you think about it like a burden. When you write reviews on Google, you don't think about that like a burden. It's just you do it. You're natural at it. You're really good at it, right?
Yeah.
And there's a whole story and lesson behind using reviews for marketing, things like that. Magnus is really great at. He's open minded to a
Mhm.
lot of things, but you just do it because that's what you do, right? And
Right.
it's
He's my
easy.
review hitman, dude. Like if I ever need like a good review written about someone, I've done it before. Like, hey
By the
man, can you
way,
just write
hook a
them like a
brother up.
bomb ass review? Yeah.
Yeah. Let me pepper a few more questions. Favorite class to teach?
I think it's going to be probably real tooling realistic skulls. That is one class. Normally, like my marketing and like social media classes. That's a ton of prep. I have to constantly stay updated with technical new things and also examples. It's tons of examples of other content creators that have nothing to do with leather. And that one's a lot of research and a lot of preparation, but like specifically tooling realistic skulls, dude, I can like forget all my tools at home and just walk into class and like, dude, who's got a drink? We're solid. Like I can do
Yeah.
this, you know, with eyes closed at this point. It's like such an easy class, but it's so cool to show people the more like I feel like I'm letting people stick their head down the well of knowledge for just a second and showing them some truly technical stuff, but I'm like holding on to the rope for them so that it
Right.
doesn't like freak them out or they don't like, you know, for me, it's like, it's how it was in chemistry. If we told you the truth about chemistry, you wouldn't trust anything. They have to teach you chemistry in these little baby steps of like understanding, because if we let you look down at the bottom of the well, you wouldn't trust anything anymore. You're like, there's no way that we know that to be true. Like, there's a lot of work that went into figuring that out, dude.
Let me pause a moment real quick and say like your tooling realistic skulls class. I've not taken it yet. I do like to take. I would like to take it because I've got a lot of feedback that even if you're not into skulls, you'll learn so much that you can apply to other work. That the skulls is just the topic, but it's all the other little skills that you're teaching that I think is just I hear is just phenomenal. So I want to take that.
Any one of my tooling classes are like that. It's just we're gonna do a
That's
skull while we're
cool.
at it.
So let me ask this before we jump up to the next question. When are you teaching those classes again?
Next classes scheduled would be in Las Vegas with Illume. I
Okay,
believe January 7th, the week surrounding January 7th, I have tooling realistic skulls, tooling for complete beginners, meaning like we're supplying everything. You literally just got to show up and we got tools for you and
that's
everything.
cool.
And it's going to be kind of We're starting from the beginning of like how does one even prep a tooling? What is the thinking that goes into producing a tooling to actually transferring the art and then getting on from there? But it's kind of a lot of the tips and tricks that I feel like really stepped up my work, but also like would kind of if you were to my goal is to try to get people into the class and not be afraid of it because I feel like tooling, especially for me, I got into leather and then realized I was an artist. I was not an artist growing up. So like the first time that I looked at tooling, I made the definitive decision of like, yeah, I like leather. I'm never doing that. Way too complicated. So like I am fully aware that that's what people feel like when they look at tooling. So
Yeah.
I want them to come into the class and going, dude, that's how you do that? Oh, I can totally do this.
It's always crazy to me that people are getting like Sheridan carving and tooling. Like that's
Mm.
where you decide to start. You could have just made a belt without all that stuff, man. It would have been great, right? But they jump right into the deep end. It's amazing to me when people do that. But
I'll brag on Brandon a little bit too, because I've had the opportunity to moderate classes for Brandon teaching online. And I've seen teachers who, when they teach a class, it's very much, look how good I am, and I don't think they intend it that way, but it's like, look at what I can do. And I will say that Brandon's is the opposite, right? His work that he's doing is beautiful, but it is every class is almost like a mini master class that's also very accessible to even people who are just getting started, because a lot of depth goes into conversations about why decisions are being made. So it's not just go do this now. It's okay, let's talk about let's understand it. And it's not overwhelming, it's not too in depth, it's at an appropriate level of information. I really appreciate the way that you teach those classes. And so I know you have Vegas and Prescott coming up as well. I do want to go back to Vegas a little bit because that's kind of exciting. It's the first time this show has happened, right? Tell us a little bit about the Vegas show.
To be run by the family that owns Loom. These man, I really just hang out with Misty. I don't know if anybody's hang out with Misty. She's an absolute sweetheart. It's as far as I know, it's like the first leather show in like a big populated city. I've definitely been dropping some social media posts targeting Las Vegas. I've definitely got a lot of messages for people that are interested in the class. If this show does well, I really think that leather should be it should be put in front of more people, not just to make more leather workers, but to make more appreciators of leather work. Like I feel like in the terms of selling your work, there's so many of us that are like fighting in this tiny little pond. And instead of fighting each other, why don't we just make the pond bigger, dude? Like we can do that by just bringing an awareness that leathercraft is even a thing. People
Mm.
don't even think to like get a leather thing made for others as a gift because it's so not even on their radar, you know? I feel like this is a good step towards making leatherwork more popular again. Like I say that like it's gone anywhere. Like leatherwork's been around for the last couple thousand years. It's not going anywhere. But to bring it more into the mainstream, I think it would make my little artist heart happy to, bring a lot of noise so that it affects all of us and not just, the people that are attached to the project.
What are the dates? Is you say January 7th? I just put up the website here. January 7th through 10th in Las
Mhm.
Vegas. I understand it's like it's not even on. It's not like on the main strip. It's like on the other end of the strip, like the more family oriented side of the strip or something like that.
Man, I'm gonna figure that out when I get there.
I like the way you travel, man. I've heard a lot of good things about it, so that's cool. Anybody else? Any other classes going on there? What? So you're teaching the skull class. You're teaching social media class. What else are you doing?
Tooling for beginners, and
Beginners.
then it's a form of like content creation class. So
Roger
like
that.
one of them is selling your work online, which will be focused on more things of like creating the identity, filling out the character sheet for your business of who do you are, who do you sell to. Cool. Now that we have like an idea of who you are, let's try to create the idealized version of who your buyer is. And then let's just try to fill out all the lingo that they use. Let's try to create the amount, like make a list of the different communities, metalheads, Ren Fair folk, like all the different groups that exist. Then what are all the different words that they use? And then you become more armed with like basically using the same language that your buyers are using because it'll help you target them with products a little bit better. Because that carries, those search algorithm stuff carries across in everything. Once you start to get really, really advanced with it, it's not even just words, visuals. It's not that great as telling what's on screen because it's going to make bad guesses. It's going based off of what the actual viewer is doing either while watching it or afterwards. SEO works on a visual level. So for anybody that doesn't know, SEO is search engine optimization. It's how you choose the words to, get the search engines to either find the people that want to buy your stuff, or vice versa. But that concept carries across past just words. But start baby steps.
Yeah.
Let's make sure that we get good at the words first.
I think that's exciting, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how that show kind of comes together. There are a lot of new classes that are being offered for the first time as part of that. I think there's some pretty innovative things that they're doing, and I am interested to kind of see how it does in a larger market like that. I mean, Odin and I were just talking about the Prescott, Arizona show that's going to be in
Mm.
February, and trying to figure out how do we even get there, right? Because we've never been to Prescott, and it's exciting. We're both really looking forward to going, but
Magnus? Prescott.
Prescott.
Biscuit. Yeah.
Prescott,
Oh,
right?
Like a biscuit.
I say Prescott. I've been saying, but
Yeah, same.
Prescott.
Prepare for snow because it's like a 50-50 chance that there's going to be snow, and the show is at the top of a very steep hill.
And Magnus just mentioned that, like, do you want to drive in the snow? Like, I'm a Texas boy. Maybe not.
although I love being able to go to places like Prescott and Sheridan and Waco and Pendleton. Those are all great shows, great communities of people. But I do also like the idea of putting things in places where it's a lot more accessible and reaches new people.
Yeah.
Because absolutely, to your point, I think it's always nice to see a bunch of the same faces and meet a few new folks at all the different shows. But at the same time, I rather meet a bunch of new folks at all of the
Yeah.
different shows. And I do
Yeah.
think that that is some of the opportunity that Vegas may have. So I'm excited to kind of see how that goes. But I really think that opportunity exists for the all the shows that are out there as well, right?
Yeah.
It's just about how do we reach those new audiences and bring in those people and make it exciting.
Mm.
And I think the classes that you offer, and humbly the classes that we offer, have kind of added a little bit of a different flavor, some different interest, kind of appeal to some different audiences. And so I really do love and appreciate the way that the leathercraft industry is growing and still staying true to its roots, still saying, having a lot of that traditional piece of it as well, but then integrating in all of the newer things. And I gotta say, you've been a big part of that, and I hope you recognize that. I hope that your ego, as we
Hmm.
talk about ego, will allow you to accept that compliment. But um, I have been able to view some of the very interesting things that even people who are very comfortable in what they were doing have started to step out of their comfort zone from the classes that you've taught, either in person or some of the online classes or the content. And so I applaud you, and I appreciate you sharing your time and expertise. Any other final things, Odin, that you think we should get him to talk about before we start to move towards wrapping up?
I got a ton of questions, to ask, but we'll save this for another episode. We'll do some 20 questions with Brandon, and questions about tools he wasted his money on, and bad decisions he made, and great decisions he made. All that kind of random stuff. I think people would love to hear, but there's just not enough time in one day in one episode, so we'll save that for next time. And then I tell you, I love again that you're a different voice, your new voice. You have your own attitude, your own personality, your own take on things, and I think that is just so needed in this space. And while I love the idea of you challenging the norm, I still love the idea the concept, you're still part of the community. You are the community, and I think that is something people should realize, that the community is not homogenous, is varied. There's lots of texture and grain to the community, and there's something to be learned in all those little corners, right? And so I love that you're bringing in a new vibe, and not that you just showed up. You didn't just show up. You've been around for a long time, but man, I just think in the last year or two, you've just got some traction going. Other people are starting to pick up on as well. So happy to hear about the classes. Love to take the class myself. Classes, not one, but many classes from you, and hope other people will do it also in the future. So Las Vegas should be cool. Prescott should be cool as well. And I'm interested to see what comes for you in 2026.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
I will say before we wrap up, tell people how they can find you, assuming they don't already follow you. Tell them all the social handles, your Discord server. Tell a little bit about what that is and why you have that. Get in the pipeline to be freed by Brandon Corral.
Easiest way is go to the website, man, swifthammerleather.com. That has links to everything. I do have the Discord. Discord is basically just a very organized group chat That's the best way that I can describe it. It's my little slice of the internet where I can kind of just, I don't know, be relaxed. It is not a business front. It is me just being friends with people on the internet. It's kind of, you think of it as an art club. I feel like I made it because when I first started doing art, I feel like it would have been nice to have like a community to share my struggles with, and someone like when you figure something out and you just want to show someone, but like, you know, you show your girlfriend, she's like, oh, cool. I have no idea what I'm looking at, but good job. You know, like to have someone to be like, dude, check out this edges that I finally nailed, you know? That's what the Discord's for. So there's, you know, a lot of business stuff that you can do with the Discord. It's just like an announcement board for me, really. It's mostly I'm curating a safe haven for artists. One of the bigger prides for me of like my work is the Discord, as well as every other link from every other social media platform, YouTube, all that stuff. It's all on the website.
Well, Brandon, hey, this is great. Been a very exciting, been a lively conversation. I think this is going to shake some things up for some folks that have been listening to us. But that's what Magnus, that's what you and I are here for. It's all about getting some new voices in the conversation, and hopefully we continue to bring more new and interesting voices to everyone that's been listening. And if you are listening, we appreciate it. Follow us with all the different channels that we're on: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and be on the lookout for what comes next. Again, Brandon, thanks for joining us. We appreciate everything you offered, and I'm looking forward to seeing you on the road, man.
Thank you for having me, guys.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Beyond the Workbench. You can reach us on social platforms at Beyond the Workbench on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Also check out beyondtheworkbench.com and listen to more episodes on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts.